Now, one of the things I do with my wildlife in watercolour paintings is consider the background colours behind the scenes. So behind all those lovely details that we need to paint as well. So today I'm going to show you how to apply the background foundation washes, all in preparation for when you add the details over the top. So let's get the brushes wet and let's get started. Now, one of the most important parts of the wildlife paintings which I do are all the colours behind the scenes, all those colours behind the details that you see within any image that you paint. You need to get these colours right because obviously that's going to be the background for the details you put over the top. But you've also got to think about the shape of the background as well. So for example, this parrot here, as you can see, I've got to think about it's going to be lighter towards the front of the beak and gets darker as it works its way over the top, really dark down here. So you've got to think about the shape all the time, and you're going to do that by adding the colours in the right place. And to do that, we have to consider how we apply those colours. Okay, let's just soften down the beak a little bit. First thing to do is wet the beak. So I'm going to allow the water to soak into the paper, and then I'll add another layer of water over the top, and again allow that to soak in. Use it for half a minute or so, that's all I normally do. And that way it's not going to run down the paper like a waterfall. Which it will do if you're not careful. At the moment, there's water just floating on the surface of the paper. And when it does that, you find that your paint will just simply run all the way down, because I've got my board on a slight angle as well. Okay, that's 2 layers of water on there now. Both layers are soaked in. I can see the texture of the paper as well. So if you put your head to one side, you can see that. Let's go for a little bit of pale blue. This, by the way, is cerulean blue and burnt umber. So we're going to start off with a watery wash first of all, then gradually we'll get darker and darker and thicker as we go along. This is just that first layer, that's all it is. The initial part of the wet in wet wash, or the foundation wash as I call it. Then a little bit of raw sienna just over the top. Just a tiny amount, that's all I'm doing. Let's go for a little bit more blue. I'm going to add this down here, just overlap there a little bit, but that doesn't matter. Just down to the bottom. So I'm going to let that completely dry. In fact, I'm going to give it a blast with the hairdryer from a distance. Nice and dry. Another layer of water over the top, but a very light layer. Just one should be enough in this case. And just out of interest, I'm using a size 6 brush for this. It's got a very good tip on this brush as well, which is very helpful. And then I'm going to go over the top again, but this time with a slightly darker colour. Instead of watery mix, which are the first two as you know, this time it's going to be more of a sort of milky mix. So think of watery like the water you get from a tap, from a faucet. Then milky, a little bit thicker than water. And then you've got creamy for the very top layer. I know. Now look at the difference this has made so far. Just by adding this on, you think, whoa, that's dark, that's dark. But it's not as dark as you think. Because we've got the water on the paper, this colour will get diluted. So therefore it will thin, it will lighten as it dries. So adding this first wash on, we know it's darker down towards the tip of the beak. You can see now it's more of a grey, isn't it? Like a rich grey, really. So out of interest, that particular colour is cerulean blue and lamp black. Now, I do use lamp black occasionally. Don't use it on its own. I like to add a colour to it. Okay, at least that way around, it's not too kind of dull. Because lamp black on its own can be very, very dull indeed. Okay, so that's the first wash of a mid-tone colour on there. Ooh. I know what a difference that's made already. Now you can also tell the way that the paint just spreads and kind of blossoms as it goes around. It kind of blooms. So what we can do, get a damp clean brush and just spread that slightly, still maintaining that curved feel to this beak. The other key as well is working back and forth around the area, because otherwise what will happen if I just stay on this area for a while, down there will start to dry. If you need to kind of rework down that area, then it could be too dry and you'll end up with kind of blemishes on the paper. So what you need to do is keep working from the top to the bottom, in the middle and so on. Go back and forth all the time. So now you can see this is more of a grey tone, isn't it? Again, let it dry or give it a blast with the hairdryer. Then we'll add the darkest layer, which is this one here, over the top. Okay, so that's 2 rough layers on there already. So what I need to do now is add the darkest layer over the top. But, saying that, I've noticed that on this part of the beak, it's just a little bit richer for this very nice colour of raw sienna. So I'm just going to just lightly dampen that area there. Take some of that water off, okay? A little bit of raw sienna in there. Just enrich it slightly more down this end here. And that's it, I know. What you can also do, if you find that you've actually covered up too much of an area, like down here, lift off a little bit of paint with a damp clean brush. Get some kitchen roll and lift. That's just lighten that area there. I can continue this up where we can see it curving. Just slightly higher up like that. It's a little bit of negative painting in a sense really by just taking a little bit of paint off and creating highlights underneath the darkest layers. The darkest layer will be a creamy mix this time around. And I'm using a mix of indigo and lamp black. A little bit more lamp black in there. So here we go. Ready? Darkest layers. Woohoo! This way you can afford to go a little bit neater with your lines. It's also where we tend to fill areas in. So these are the darkest parts of the beak. So I'm going to very lightly go down the beak like that. And if you wanted to, you could use a finer brush. I normally do, like a size 00. It's my favourite brush. And add this in very carefully towards the top of the beak first of all. Then also towards the bottom. Alright, so I'm going to very lightly paint a line towards the tip of that beak down there. Using the steadiest of hands, just move that out of the way so I can get my hand in there. Very lightly, just touching the paper. Too much paint on the brush at the moment. But I can remove some of that paint. One, by blocking in areas which are really dark, like down here. Also this area here as well. Just to remove some of that paint off the brush. And then very lightly, start to bring down some of these marks you've made on there. Like that. Look at the curvature of the beak as well. Then that is nearly ready for the details to go over the top. I know. Just about there already. Okay, clean damp brush. And very lightly soften this down now. Probably a little bit too high on this area here, but it's only a demonstration. And as per usual, I can lift paint off. Clean water, allow it to soak in, so I've got a gentle blend all the time. See that? See what I mean? And the same on here, so just a damp area down below. Just tickle the tips of this into that damp area. So it just blends the colour beyond it, okay? That's all I'm doing. Then lightly dampen away from the area and just bring that colour in to that damp area. So you're constantly thinking about shape all the time, as I'm just doing on this part of the beak here, lot. Just by removing a small amount of paint, that now gives more of a curved feel there, doesn't it? There we go. That's all ready now to receive the darkest layers, which I do, as you can see on the video there. Now, obviously with the beak, you can lift more paint off as well. And I would normally do that when I do all the detail work using a fine size 00 brush. And obviously a little bit of kitchen roll. Now, painting something like this is really good fun, isn't it? Especially when it's a wildlife subject. Now, I've got well over 150 other watercolour wildlife subjects on my Patreon channel. I go through every single video right from the start all the way through to the end for you, show you how to do them as well. So if you fancy being spoiled for choice when looking for a wildlife subject to paint, have a look at the link in the description down below for my Patreon channel. Hopefully, I'll see you there. Now, we know tongues are pink, don't we? Most of the time anyway. Depends on what they've been eating, I know. But in this case, what we've actually got, we've got more of a pinky red, a little bit of purple in there, a little bit of blue maybe, a little bit of brown. Brown? Yeah, possibly. It's kind of dulling the colour down just a touch. So I'm really looking behind the scenes, behind all them details within that wet, kind of sloppy tongue there. So what I need to do is get some alizarin crimson and a little bit of French ultramarine. As before, what we'll do first of all is wet the tongue. Well, it's normally wet anyway, isn't it? Wet the tongue with cleanish water. Allow that water to soak in. Let's go for some alizarin crimson and some French ultramarine first of all. Now, I'm looking at the lighter areas and the duller areas within the tongue, and you can see there are some fairly dull sections in there. So if you went in with these alizarin crimson, a little bit too rich, isn't it? So what you want to do is soften that down, water it down. So just a hint of pink in there. Just a hint, nothing more. And blend it. Just that first initial layer on the tongue here. Remember, these are all the colours behind the scenes. Thinking about the overall shape, I mean, even at this early stage, you're starting to consider the shape of the item you're painting or the subject you're painting. And that's what I'm doing here. Maybe a little bit of mauve, probably around there, maybe even there, I don't know. Just to add a bit more colour into that tongue. Blend it. Allow that to soak into the paper. And just a touch of Payne's grey around here. That just dullens that section down a touch. And as you can see, that varies the background colour, it really does. A little bit more around there, just a touch of it. Clean your brush off and then blend that in as well. So again, I'm looking at the lightest areas, which are around here and here. Now, because I use watercolour white within my paintings, I'll be putting some highlights on that within the main painting, as you can see down there. But in this case, what I'm going to do is show you the basic layers I'm going to use to create that tongue, that very wet looking tongue. Right, clean water again. I'm going to wet just the front part of the tongue this time around. Only lightly wetting it once. That should be enough. As I said earlier, this is before we add any details over the top. Same colour, alizarin crimson, a little bit of French ultramarine. And my colours vary from the main painting to what I'm doing now. What you tend to see at the time, isn't it? It really is. And actually often you can use a variety of colours to create the same painting. I know, amazing really. So already we've got a little bit of shape going there, and that's without even neatening down the edge as well. We should do that with a detail layer anyway. Then the back of the tongue is quite recessed there, isn't it? So a small amount of water. Take some of it off so it's not too wet. Don't flood the paper, remember. Pop it to there. That's some of this colour in there now. Look at that, that's rich. Oh, that's very rich. And lightly blend it with a damp, clean brush. Think about where this goes. You can see a bit of a shadow from the inside of the mouth there. It's going straight across that tongue. So we've already got a bit of a curve coming down now, the way the tongue goes into the depths of the mouth. I'm going to switch to a little bit of black, like a blacky blue, that's all I'm going to use. Add that in as well now, over the top. Gradually building the layers up all the time, and this time, I'm going to control it a little bit more. The paper's still a bit damp. Again, considering those darker shades now. We worked on the lights, we worked on the mid-tones, now we're working on the darker tones. I'm just looking at the different sorts of shades and colours underneath and behind the scenes. I can see that grey kind of hint around there. And the tongue is a little bit more sort of bulbous around that area there. So again, what we can do, just a touch of Payne's grey. That's enough, that's too much even. Blend it. It's around there. Blend it out. Control it. Grab some of your alizarin crimson mix. Then I'm going to think about the shape down the bottom of the tongue or down the side of the tongue here. So a little bit of colour down there. A bit more. We'll do the same down this side now. And this time we're going to lightly dampen with a clean damp brush just down here. Grab some of your purpley colour, your ready purpley colour. Drop that in. Maybe even enrich this one down there now, just a touch more. And it's going to give the curved feel as it goes underneath the tongue as well. Otherwise, it'll just look too flat, which we don't want it doing, obviously not. The tongue is not flat, of course not. The front of the tongue, come down a little bit lower there, but not too worried. It's a demonstration at the end of the day. Dampen that bit of paper down there. And again, just a touch of our kind of mid-tone colour now. And the colour that I'm using is this one here. This is slightly thicker now. This is more of a milky consistency. So it's not watery like that one there, as you can see. It's really watery. Add this one down there to darken it slightly more. And then around the side, grab a little bit of our dark colour. Add that in as well, considering the shape all the time. Looking carefully back and forth for that reference photograph for the overall shape of this tongue. Then with a clean damp brush, just blend out the edge of this. Bit of water further than you need to go first of all, then blend it into that water. To get a bit of our sort of blacky blue colour there, I'm going to add a central line down here and blend that in a minute. All the way down. Pulling that pencil mark, I can just see. Bit of our red over the top, our pinky red, blend it together, then blend out the edge. Then the darkest layer at the back. It's really dark beyond there, isn't it? It's where we've got the fur kind of flicking up like that. On the top of the mouth. Then very lightly, again, a line of water just beyond that dark area. Not too much water though. Then tickle the edge of this in, tiny circles, into that line of water. So it blends, it merges in with it. And that's just the foundation washes for the tongue. And obviously the full process of painting this dog's tongue is within my Patreon video down below. Now, next one. We've got to think about painting berries. Now, how do we get a round shape when working with colours? Let's do that one next. Berries. Well, obviously they're round. First thing to do, wet the berry. Just wet it. I know, just give it a quick wetting. And allow that water to soak into the paper. Then into that wet paint, what we're going to do, a little bit of Scarlet Lake and just a touch of alizarin crimson. I know. What you've got to consider is where the light's coming from. I'm going to have the light coming from the top left, probably from, say, 10 o'clock direction within here. So just might add this colour in first of all. Look at that. Lovely colour, isn't it? Very, very bright. Then bringing that colour up towards the lighter area. Remember, it's around there. And all the way towards the top there. Give that brush a rinse soft. Give it a clean, just a damp, clean brush. Dampen this area and then tickle, tiny circles again, that paint towards a lighter area. Control that paint. Bring it around, very pale around there. Still want a little bit of colour in there. And already, just by using one colour, we've got shape there, haven't we? Quite a lot of shape. Just by controlling that paint. Now, whilst it's still wet, what I can do is add a little bit of Payne's Grey into that as well. So, I've got my red colour here, just add a little bit of Payne's Grey in there. And we can add this now into the darkest areas. Now, the darkest areas are going to be on the underside, away from that light, aren't they? Very lightly, controlling that brush and controlling the paint. Drop that colour in. Like so. Just a touch more towards there. Don't completely flood it though. That's plenty. Clean damp brush again. Very lightly tickle it. Blend it in. And this is just the first layer, I know. The first layer. Now, a good way of doing this is by allowing it to dry by itself. At least that way around, we get a nice gradual blend, won't it, all the way through. Allow it to dry or give it a quick dry with a hairdryer. Then what we need to do is put the top layer of colour over this, which is going to be a richer red and also slightly darker towards the bottom. Now, as for the spade handle, the process is the same by working with wet and wet washes. Think about the lighter side and then the darker side. So think about where that light is coming from. Now let's work on the mussel shell and the colours we can see within it. Again, wet the paper first of all before we start adding the colours over the top. Get a little bit of bluey purple. We'll drop that in. Look at that. Ooh, what a colour. What a colour. We can see within this mussel shell that it's actually darker again down this side here and lighter towards this end here, isn't it? And towards the tip on that side. So I'm going to add a little bit of colour in there first of all. Then I'll move that colour around and add other colours in to the mix at the same time. Constantly thinking about the shape all the time and where those kind of lighter and darker areas are. Just re-dampen down there. Blend that colour into that dampened area. And the same on the other side. Always thinking about maintaining the wetness of the paper all the time. That's what I'm doing here. Don't want any part of this painting to dry at this early stage of the painting. I really don't. Look at those colours, lovely, isn't it? Lovely colours. A little bit of French ultramarine just there. And the same on this side as well. Rinse your brush out. Got to work fairly swiftly. For these foundation washes, you want to make them blend. You want to allow them to blend or give them a little bit of encouragement to do so. Let's add a little bit of lamp black into our mauve colour. So this is mauve and French ultramarine. Just to dulling it down, only a small amount. I'm still thinking about the shape all the time here. And we can see that the light really is coming from the top. It's coming from above really, isn't it? From this area here. More like 12 o'clock really. So adding this colour in, we've already got a bit of a curve showing there. However, there's one little thing I'm not happy with. Take some of that water off the brush, clean damp brush, and lift off a little bit of paint towards the top of this area here. Just to lighten it back. Just take a little bit off. Now you'll find that some paints do stain when you do this. And because they stain, you can leave a bit of colour on the paper, but that's fine. That's not an issue at all. And then we'll add our darkest layer underneath. Still using my size 6 brush all the time here, you know. I know, when you think I normally use a size 00, very, very fine. This is more of a purpley black I'm using. Again, I've changed the colours from the video. It doesn't really matter. Something similar to this is all that matters, really. And I think I'll introduce a little bit of French ultramarine into that as well. Changing the flavour all the time. Playing around with the colours once it's still wet on the paper as well. And you want that to dry, and once it's nice and dry, then we can start thinking about adding details over the top. I know, that's simple, isn't it? That's simple. What we can also do, when you look at this corner here, it's still a little bit damp. I'm going to very lightly dampen it again. I can still see a little bit of colour around here. So I'll purpley black. Even I'll introduce a touch of red in there as well. Change it, move it around. It's your shell at the end of the day. And that'll give us some ideas how I start off working with the foundation wash for something like a mussel shell. So basically it's like a round pebble, isn't it, really, is all it simply is. Like a simple pebble, to think about the shape all the time, once again considering the direction of the light. Where's it coming from? Where's the sun? And when I'm working on a branch, what I like to do, again dampen it down first of all. The texture of the wood we tend to add on afterwards, okay? So you're thinking this time about the curvature of that wood. It's about working with these tonal values, about working with these foundation washes, and that's it. That's all we're doing. Grab a little bit of burnt umber, and we'll add that in to begin with. Just a touch, straight from the half pan. So I'm constantly thinking about the curve of the wood. So that's too blocky there to begin with. So what you can do, lightly blend it towards the central area. Remember the light's coming down from above as we're looking at this. And already just by using one colour we've got a bit of a curve going on there, haven't we? Then we can go for mid-tone colour. It's like a blacky brown. That's what it simply is. Again, it's going to be darker towards the base. So around here, darken it down. Like that. Bring it back up again. It's all about layers, isn't it? Think about the layers of the foundation wash. I don't normally just do it in one go. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I just do one layer and that's it. Depends on the subject matter, of course. You can bring out a few little details here and there if you wanted to. And they'll blend anyway. They'll just soften down. And then we can go for our dark colour. With a little bit of lamp black, a little bit of blue, to a creamy consistency. If you want it warmer, then you'll have a warmer kind of dark colour, something like a black and a brown. Or you can make up your own blacks from the pre-primary colours, which you can do. So that's a black on there. Now what I need to do, again, once more, blend it. Very lightly blend it, but not too high though. Probably about a quarter of the way up this time around. So once this foundation layer is dry, then I'll start thinking about adding the details over the top. And the details will be all different consistencies of paint as well. You know, from watery to milky to creamy to even maybe a little bit of thick. Now, how do you fancy learning some more tips and tricks to do with watercolour? So what I'll do, I'll pop a link to the top right hand corner of the screen for you. I'll see you there.